Welcome, everybody. I am Dr. Pamela Thomas from the CMC. This morning, we're going to be covering Solving the Mystery, the Case of Cataloging Kits by Mary Cornell. And she will answer your questions at the end, so you can pop your questions in the chat box at any time. Take it away, Mary.
Hello, all. Welcome to Online with the CMC. As Pam mentioned, today our topic will be Solving the Mystery, the Case of Cataloging Kits. I am your presenter, Mary Cornell. Okay, our agenda today includes a few items. First, we look at what a kit is. Then we'll look at different types of kits. Next, we will look at a few specific kit fields. After that, we'll look at some examples of kit records. And lastly, I'll mention my resources. So what is a kit? According to its mark, a kit describes an item that contains a mixture of components from two or more categories, that is, sound recordings, maps, film strips, etc., issued as a unit and intended primarily for instructional purposes. No one component is identifiable as the predominant component of the item. So a kit can be one that your library has assembled for a particular purpose, whether that be educational or recreational, or it can be a kit you have purchased ready-made. Above on the slide are some photos of different kinds of kits that have been cataloged here at the CMC. The examples include a ready-made kit from Marshall Public Library, Junior Explorers, Switzerland, a kit Marshall Public Library put together, Kids Kit number 96, Magic, a kit Allerton Public Library put together to assist with understanding dyslexia, and lastly, a kit put together by the Illinois Early Intervention House that focuses on toddlers learning to read and speech comprehension. As mentioned in the last slides, kits can cover educational and instructional materials, but they can also be kits for entertainment, say like a book in a bag, so accompanied with maybe an audio recording of a book and the physical book, an adventure kit, a health-based kit, a murder mystery kit, and more. I've seen in my time working at the CMC, the kits run the whole gamut of topics and items. One of the most extensive kits that I think I've ever cataloged falls into the category of an educational kit. It was cataloged for Evans Public Library District. They received the kit materials via a grant called Looking for Lincoln, and they're divided into different kits based on grade level. There is everything from books to plastic kitchen utensils to a Lincoln top hat to maps, etc. This kit is really aiming at immersing a child or student into the times of Abraham Lincoln through various components. If you're interested in looking at one of the records for one of these kits, grade 4 can be found at OCLC number 144-366-8535. So now we're going to look at some kit-specific fields. And looking at these fields, there are the 007, the 3XX, and fixed field elements that pertain to a kit exactly. However, these other fields, the 00X, 02X, 03X, 5XX, 6XX, and 7XX also can include information that can be specific to a kit you're cataloging. So first, we're going to look at the fixed fields elements. I just want to reiterate before we look at these fields, though, that these are just some of the fields, or possibly even all of the fields you could use in a kit. Your kit fields that are included within your record will be determined by what is included in your kit overall. However, primarily the fixed field elements and the 0XX fields will be most common required fields. The kit we're going to be using for our following examples is Kids Kit number 100 Happy Birthday that was cataloged from Marshall Public Library. It can be found at OCLC number 141-902-9385. So first and foremost, a kit is cataloged as a visual material record, as you can see in the dropdown in the image above. A kit in the type or type of record field element is cataloged as an O, which is the direct code for kits. Another fixed field element that is important for kits is TMAT, or the type of material field element, that is cataloged as B, which, like type, is specific for kits. Other fixed field elements that could come into play would be time, dates, and tech. Language and country are always other considerations in any record. Tech and time could be something other than in or in, which stands for non-applicable. If time, if say your kit is a mixture of films. If your kit includes primarily films, using the time field would be applicable. Otherwise, you would code it as in. Date, which in this kit is 2024, as it was a kit published by a library, but it also could be, say, a Penworthy kit, for example, that is published by a company and comes with a date attached. You could have a kit that doesn't have a printed date, or some piece of it was published years ago, and therefore you could also have a questionable date. The looking for Lincoln record in our kit type slide is a great example of this. Next, for our kit, we could have a number of 0xx and 02x fields that you might add to your record. Firstly, as this kit is a kit, you would always add a 007 for the kit itself. As per OCLC bib formats and standards, your kit's 007 would have an O in the subfield A to represent a kit. You would then add a U in the subfield B, as this field describes the class of material, which for a kit is usually not just one type of material, so it is coded as unspecified. The 02x fields for a kit can be optional, but they can, like any field, give patrons an access point to search by. These fields could range from the ISBN to the publisher number, a standard number, or if your kit includes videos, it could also include a 037 field or a source of acquisition code. My personal cataloger's judgment with an ISBN is to Z it out or put it in a subfield Z before the ISBN, which will effectively make the ISBN a non-searchable access point. You can see this in the example that the ISBN for Happy Birthday from the Very Hungry Caterpillar, which is an item included in the kit. Both the ISBN 13 and the ISBN 10 are Z'd out. This is a terminology I picked up while working at Ingram. So blame corporate cataloging if you've not heard of it said that way before or described that way before. Also included is a 028 or publisher number for a birthday cake set by Melissa and Doug. For a kit, the 300 should be structured as such. Subfield A would include one kit with what it is included in the kit in parentheses. Subfield B should include the content of your kit's material and color characteristics, or the extent elements. And subfield C will be dependent on how your kit is packaged. If it's in a container, usually the measurements of your container will be the field of measurement in your subfield C. For a kit and the 334, your mode of issuance would be single unit, because even though it includes multiple items, the kit would be checked out as a single item. You then would add in whatever 33x fields you need to for your kit's contents. This can include the 336, 337, and 338 for a kit itself, three-dimensional form, unmediated, and object specifically, but also can include additional fields for, say, a book and the text included in it. You also would want whatever 34x fields are specific for your kit. For instance, if it includes color, you should have a subfield G in the 340 for color or polychrome, depending on your library's policies. You can also include a 380 for a kit if you feel your kit needs it. Per bib formats, the 380 is a class or genre of work to which a work belongs, and this may be used to differentiate a work from another work with the same title. In our example above, we have 340s for the kit material types. I did include a 380 for this, as Happy Birthday on its own is a very common title. So next we're going to look at our 5XX fields. This can really come down to deciding what information you feel will be helpful for your patrons and the contents of your kit being searchable or accessible. I have seen some catalogers put some of the information I have in my 505 field in a 500 field. For instance, if the kit includes pre-combined materials like the Melissa and Doug birthday cake set, I've seen information like that put in a 500 field. I have found that including all the contents in a 505 allows the cataloger to add different descriptions of the kit. Another aspect that could be prevalent to your kit is the 588 field. This is a source field. So many kits, especially those that are assembled by libraries, may come without a title or a title that is not included on the packaging. As such, you may either find the title of a kit on a kit include sheet, a sheet with kit's contents, as was true for our example from Marshall Public Library, or it may be a title you as a cataloger need to derive. In our example above, we have a 500 field that notes that the kit was assembled by Marshall Public Library. In the 505, it includes all the items in the kit in separate subfield T fields and the material type in a subfield G. The subfield G, formatted as it is in this record, isn't required, especially if you have 340s with the material types in them. The 520 includes a summary, and the 588 denotes the title from this kit is from the kit include sheet. Okay, and lastly, we're going to talk about some different options for the 6XX fields that I don't have in this record in OCLC. Firstly, if your library allows it, you can add a local field in the 655 or 690 for kits. This is a genre heading that is not in the LCGFT right now, and therefore you can denote it this way as a subject heading or as a genre heading. Um, in Share, this is a local subject heading field that is added to all kit records as seen above. Also, if your library allows, you could use alternate terminology like the art and architecture thesaurus from Getty. You can include a genre field that way as a 655-7, as that is a thesaurus that has its own subfield too. The 7XX field of a kit can also include a few different fields. In a kit that is compiled by a library like this one, you could include a 710 with a first indicator of 2 and put in Marshall Public Library with a subfield E for compiler. In many kits, you will also find the field above. While some may be tempted to use the 700 field for this information, including a subfield I for container of work note, the 777 is more specific to the items you're cataloging. A 777 or an issued with entry field is information about the publications which are separately cataloged but are issued with or included with the target item in a horizontal relationship. For example, in this kit, Happy Birthday from the Very Hungry Caterpillar is cataloged on its own record in OCLC, but to note that a 777 with a first indicator of 0 and a second indicator of 8 is used. So for instance, we have 77708, subfield I, container of item, subfield A, Eric Carl, which Carl Eric, so that's the author. Subfield T, you have the title, Happy Birthday from the Very Hungry Caterpillar. Subfield D includes the original publication information, which is New York, New York, World of Eric Carl, 2019. And then in both your subfield Zs, you have the two different ISBNs, ISBN 13 and ISBN 10. And then in the subfield W, you will see the original Library of Congress record that the item is cataloged in is included, which comes from OCLC 108-998-9841. You can use the 777 field for any item in the kit that has its own separate OCLC record. This can be helpful to create access points if wanted or needed in your record. Okay, so now we're going to look at our kit examples. So I'm going to be using all the kits that were in our original, like little 4 images of kits and what a kit is. So the record shots I'm sharing are not the complete record for the records in these examples, but I will be sharing all the OCLC numbers for these records. So for this record, we are looking at OCLC number 1311276-204. In the fixed field elements, we see that the type of record field element is coded as O, and the type of material field element is coded as B, which both mark them as a kit, the item as a kit. The country of publication for the item is recorded as ILU in the fixed field element, as this kit was created by Illinois Early Intervention Clearinghouse. Other fields of note in the screenshot include the 007. The first 007 is a kit-specific field with a subfield A coded as O for kits and the subfield B coded as U, as the materials of the kit are unspecified or not one specific form of materials. The second 007, as well as the corresponding 3XX fields, are not necessary for kits as per OLAC. There is no mark field 007 coding for objects because there is no directly applicable 007 field that fits objects, and coding the unspecified mark field 007 adds very little value. And this is directly from OLAC. Kits are objects, and the coding the unspecified mark field 007 adds very little value as per OLAC. And so we don't actually need that second 007 that's in this record, but I was unaware of OLAC's guidelines about this beforehand, but now I know. Okay, so looking at the 3XX fields, the 300 lists that this is a kit in a subfield A, and in parentheses lists the items contained in the kit as 4 books. The 3-3-X's, as seen in this screenshot, show that the kit is a 3-dimensional form, an object, and includes specific 3-3-X's and 3-4-X's for the books as shown in the beginning of a subfield 3. You'll have subfield 3 book for the book in specific. And so you have a 3-3-6 for text. And then lastly, in this slide, we do have a 505 field, which includes all the books in the kit with the author and, when applicable, illustrator information. So this is the last part of our record, and this includes all of the 7.7s, and I wanted to share these. So each 777 field includes a subfield I for container of item, a subfield A for the author, a subfield T for the title, a subfield D for the publication information, a subfield Z for the ISBNs, and a subfield W with the OCLC number from either the DLC, which is the Library of Congress record, or the full level record that is available for the items. The 4 books in those fields are shown in the picture. So next we're going to look at Junior Explorers Switzerland, which is at OCLC number 1377664861, which, as I mentioned earlier, was cataloged from Marshall Public Library. With this kit record, I mainly want to bring your attention to the numerous 3XX fields. As you can see, there's quite a many of them. This starts with the 300 field, which includes all the kit's contents, and the 300 subfield A. How you decide to number the items can be cataloger's judgment. However, OLOC does recommend that you record the term in a singular or plural as applicable in the subfield A. Consistency on this is something I, as a cataloger, need to work on. But as with the last slide, and I was talking about this, now I know for sure. This screenshot also shows a great deal of subfield 3s for different items in the kit, including 338s for sheet and volume, 336s for text. Also, there are 340s present for items made of different material types, such as paper and cloth. These materials are in the list of materials of RDA's controlled terms, so they do include the subfield 2 of RDA mat. So looking at this next slide, we do have a 505, which includes subfield Gs, as I've seen before, for the separate pieces. As I've said before, this is optional and you do not have to include this information. As noted in OCLC bib formats and standards, the subfield G can include extent information such as page numbering, part, timing, volume, or other extent information such as dates, or elements you might normally see in the 300 field. I also want to point out the various 65X fields, which include 655s with a second indicator of 0 for mystery games and adventure games, and a 655 with a second indicator of 7 for puzzles and games. Okay, so next we're going to be looking at the Dyslexia Resource Kit for Families, and this can be found at OCLC number 1366107-349 that was put together for Allerton Public Library. Of note in this kit is it includes a 007 for the included DVD. The DVD didn't include any standard numbers, so no 024, no 028. And so those aren't included in your 020 fields, but you do have ISBN numbers in your 020 fields that are shown for the different books that are in there. And then also in the 300 fields, the 5 items in the kit are listed in subfield A, and the extent information, which includes color, material type, and sound, are listed in the subfield B. There are a number of 33X and 34X fields pertaining to the DVD included, shown as through a beginning of a subfield 3 of DVD. There are also some included 33X fields for the books, including text and volume. And so this last set of screenshots for this item includes an enhanced 505 with a subfield G for the DVD. So the color and time and extent are included there. There are also 777 fields for the 3 books and the DVD in the kit. And our last example of a kit is the Kids Kit number 96, Magic, put together by Marshall Public Library. And this can be found at OCLC number 137777951. This kit probably includes the most extensive variety of items that I have as an example. The kit includes a book, a set of card tricks, some boxes, a ball, some rubber bands, some velvet bags, silk scarves, cards, and a bowl. So bringing attention to the 300 subfield B, the material contents of this kit include wood, plastic, cloth, silk, and velvet. As you can see in the 3-4X fields, wood and plastic are RDA controlled material terms. However, as you can see at the very bottom of the screenshot, velvet is not a controlled term. There are other thesauri you can utilize for this field, the most common being the rare books and manuscripts section of ACRL or RBMS terms. However, RBMS doesn't have a term for just velvet either. They have a term for, say, velvet bindings, but that isn't what the velvet items are in this kit. So continuing with our thoughts from the last slide, we also have a foam ball that's included in this kit, but it also doesn't have a controlled vocabulary term. Because the term used is not a controlled vocabulary, the field ends with a subfield A of just foam, as you have no source to put in a subfield 2. Again, we have an enhanced 505 with physical extent descriptions in the subfield G. The card trick set by Melissa and Doug had an age range, and as such, that is included in the 521 with ages 8 plus. Okay, so on the side we have the resources that I used to put together this presentation. And then on our call today is Barb Scobie, Dr. Pam Thomas, myself, Mary Cornell, Eric McKinney, Kat Enderberg, Katie Roberts, and Andrea Giosta. Do we have any questions?
Yes, Mary, we do. Hang on. So Bobby asked, could you put quotes around kit includes sheet, because I had to read that 3 times before it made sense. And I just replied that if you do use quotes, you should also document where you found the information, but that I would
Yeah.
let you answer the question.
Yeah, so I use that exact terminology because that is exactly what Marshall calls their kit sheet for contents. I know it's very odd sounding, but that like every single kit that they've sent me that includes one they've put together, that's what they call it. That's the title of the sheet. It's kit include sheet. So I know it's awkward wording, but that's what they use.
And then Melissa made a follow-up, maybe in the 300 field. I also found this confusing, or I also find this confusing. Could this be listed as one contents list?
Okay, I'm with you now. So I include it as a part of the contents list because they include it on their contents list, which also I know is very different. But if, say, I had a picture of their kit include sheet, at the very bottom, it always includes as part of the kit's contents, the kit include sheet. So this is the only library I do that for because that's how they format it on their own sheet. Otherwise, I wouldn't include it that way.
Yeah, Bobby put, I meant the 588. It just didn't register at first. I read it. Bobby, yes, yes,
yeah.
I agree. I had suggested maybe changing it to title from instruction sheet, because that's how I interpret the instructions for the 588. Okay, Karina says, could AAT be used as a vocabulary for types of material? It looks like they have a few options for velvet.
Yes. Yeah. It is, and that is actually one of the thesauri I mentioned earlier, which is the Art and Architecture thesaurus from Getty. I don't use that one as often because there's a lot of terms that are already in the RDA material controlled list as well as RBMS, but that is absolutely an additional thesauri you could use.
And Bobby just put, it's just a little thing. I get it, Bobby. So Melissa says velvet isn't a material. Velvet can be silk or rayon or other material. What makes it velvet is the way the threads are woven and cut. It's like knit versus woven. And just an FYI, you can unmute yourself if you'd rather ask your question verbally rather than put it in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? And we are recording this. I will send out the recording, link to the recording probably early next week once we get that back from our IT staff.
Mm-hmm. The only thing I'm going to add in about the 588, and this is probably just a stubborn thing that is very much cataloger's judgment. I kind of see it as RDA is what you see is what you get. That's what I was always taught about terminology and things that we would find on the item, which is why I've decided to record the 588 as such. That is absolutely something that, of course, you can change to make it work better for your items in your library.
Carly says, can you please repeat the OCLC numbers for the example kits or put them in the chat? They'll be on the slides and the notes after the presentation on L2, Carly. And just a reminder, next month we'll be presenting Who Are You? Library of Congress Demographic Group Terms, the LCD GTs, and then any of our upcoming webinars you can register for through L2. So anybody else have any other questions? Either about the presentation or just cataloging in general? Melissa says, how do you decide whether to catalog something as a kit versus another type?
That's a great question. So a lot of times all the examples for example, were items that the library sent to us and they denoted them as kits. I know if it's, say, archival, I may be more inclined to, say, do it as a mixed material record. But most of the time, if someone sends me something and they already denote it as a kit, I will catalog it as a kit. But as they talk about in the definition earlier, if you have components that you're putting together that they aren't just one format and you want to catalog that as a kit, you absolutely can. But yeah, usually I go by the library's lead. If they want it to be a kit and cataloged as such, I will catalog it as such.
And typically, if there isn't one thing in that collection that isn't the predominant source, then you catalog it as a kit. Melissa says, thanks. You're welcome. So any other questions? Okay, I don't see anything in the chat. So I'm going to stop the recording.